Yeah. Okay, you're gonna go upstairs? Yeah, are you gonna go upstairs with mommy? Because you can't be down here. Mommy's got to be down here with you. Mommy's got to be down here with you. Lucy, what are we doing, girl? Go upstairs to go see mama. Go upstairs. Get your kitty ears, Lucy. You're okay, Lucy May. Love you, Lucy. What do we got? Oh gosh. Download. Jenny.
Brandt, you're a glasses wearing dude.
I am a follicle dude, yes.
Tell me about the best way to clean them, please.
Ooh. Okay. What I do is I usually just get like a microfiber cloth. Like a pack of 3 for pretty cheap from like Home Depot or if you have I don't know if you guys have Harbor Freight out there, but someplace like that. And I just use that. And it'll get to a point where the microfiber cloth gets a little bit gross and I won't use it anymore. But that's what I do. I don't use the solution. I don't use that little tiny cloth that they give you because it just gets all smudgy and smeary.
Yeah. I used like the disposable, like the wipes, like with alcohol, totally smeared my glasses. I was like, bruh.
And I know people who swear by it. And for me, listen, I will also say I am a little obsessive compulsive when it comes to a couple of things. And so let me put it this way. I go through way too much windshield washer solvent because my windshield has to be spotless. Okay. And it's the same thing with my glasses. Like it's gotta be spotless. And there are some people that are cool with the alcohol wipes. I can't do it. I think
it's, I mean, we had the generic brand. I'm not like, I remember like my stepdad years ago using like the good kind. I don't know. I'm a C, but I actually have some microfiber cloths. So,
and I was the other thing that I learned too is don't wash it. At least when we would wash it, all of a sudden it gets some film on it that made it smudgy and smeary. So
okay.
Okay, so if we look at this real quick, so one of the things.
Guess what I didn't do? Go through and mark the ones that I want to do.
That is fine. So if we look at this real quick, what I want you to do is just let me know which ones that you'd be interested in talking about and which ones you wouldn't, just so I don't have to worry about throwing it to you and you're looking at me like, yeah, dude, I'm not interested in this and I've got
Okay, so we got the LDS Church won't stand in the way of tougher hate crimes law in Utah. It says no groups of good. A
weird one.
What does that mean?
So previously, when they were doing hate crimes legislation in Utah, they did not want to include LGBT groups, mostly because they thought that it wouldn't pass and constituents would get mad at some of the legislators and stuff like that. And now they're trying to push another hate crimes law through to include LGBT individuals on it. And the church is saying, no, we're not going to get in the way of this one. So apparently it's news. But for me, the reason why I included it is because it's the church kind of seeing a little bit of what's happened with their involvement in some political issues. And I think they're taking a little bit of a back seat here.
So let me just make sure I'm understanding this. So there's a tougher, like a hate crimes law, meaning like hate crimes against these groups, we're going to crack down on it.
Yeah. So there is already a hate crimes law out there.
But it doesn't include LGBT. And this one does. Right. And the church is saying, yeah, go for it. Or no?
Right. Okay. That is, Marty Stevens said, continually we're being blamed as the ones holding this up. And so we want to let people know that since 2016, we have not taken a position on hate crimes and we are not opposed to a hate crimes piece of legislation.
Okay.
That is his exact quote.
Okay.
So
I could do that. I think that's interesting. It's funny because I think that Pot Talk is you.
Yeah, that one is literally just going to be quick. Okay, here's what it is. Mostly because I think it's interesting to see there was all that hand wringing and then nothing happened. You know, it's
Detroit Lions. That's me, JK.
Yeah, that is all you, Jenny.
So
listen, I'm so what's the word? Ostentatious. I have no I have no qualms doing this. I've actually considered reaching out to him and be like, hey, so you're in Detroit and I'm in Detroit and I'm a Detroit Lions fan and we do this thing. Do you want to do just a quick 20-minute interview?
You should.
Why not?
That's awesome. So I read Michelle's response to this one. Wait, is this the one? Yeah, wait. Michelle's response to the...
Yeah, so this, I think this is Garden's column.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is...
No, yeah, this is the legislature. Did you ever listen to Radio from Hell?
I used to. I haven't.
Okay, so Carrie used to say, like, when they would say the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Carrie would always say, the Mormons.
Yeah.
But now Carrie says, the legislature. And it's my favorite thing. So
pretty good.
He's so funny. Anyway, so I did read Michelle's. I think either of us could do that.
Hers was good. I actually really liked hers. So what we could probably do is, if you read Michelle's, I can go through and talk, because I think that's the Utah legislature is a big story, and I think the Mormon influence is something, especially a lot of Debacus's quotes. And then what we could probably do is, if you read Michelle's, I'll have you take over Michelle's response. I pulled a lot of quotes out of here, but I think we can talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
The conversion therapist, to me, that's a quick story.
Okay. That's good. And yeah. So
Did you get your book yet?
I did. And I have to tell you, like, I had it on the counter. We had a mild super crisis this week. Everything's gonna be fine. But I was just a little distracted. But it was so funny because then, what was it? Was it Thursday night? I got home from Utah County, and John's like, let's go get something to eat. And we're backing out of the driveway. He goes, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm like, what? And he goes, my girlfriend got this book in the mail. So he's totally taken it from me. He took it to church today.
So here's the thing. Now that you're kind of wrapped up in this world with me, I legitimately get so excited when I get these books. And I think at first Ashley was like, so what'd you order this time? And now she's just comfortable with the fact that we just get these books delivered all the time. But that book especially, I was reading it today at church. I was reading in her methodology, and like, I have so many questions for her, and I want to get her on, and I really get sick of people bashing her, because I think that she tried to do legitimately the best that she possibly could. But I'm really excited for that book.
Yep.
So
okay.
You're a Gen Xer, aren't you?
Yeah, 77 is. So you.
So right? we could both probably have a lot to talk about with that one.
Yep. And then I want to do St. George just because that's, I was thinking about it. It's where Ray was endowed. She wanted to go down there. So she loves that temple. So I'm like, oh, well then I guess she won't be getting married for a few years, which is of course nonsense. She can do whatever she wants, but
we'll see about that.
Yeah.
We'll see about that.
And then the fire, that's sad. Okay. Oh, and I'm going to add a couple of screenshots. Okay. Because this Heard at BYU stuff is so funny. I don't even think they were Heard at BYU tweets, but they're just like, they're so funny. These other tweets that I saw, I just have screenshots of them. So I'll just go ahead and
drop those in there. And my thought is we'll see what the timing looks like when we get to that point.
Okay.
I think let's just talk about it, because I reached out to these guys and I was like, we want to feature your tweets on the show. Is that going to be okay? And of course they're like, yeah, that'd be great. So I think that's hilarious, because anyone who's been to BYU or lived in Provo for a little bit, like, these are legitimate things that people say. Like, this is not like someone trying to make stuff up.
You can't make it up.
No. I need to check I gotta check my mail real quick. I'm waiting for Deborah to send me the new
commercial.
Yeah. He didn't send it to me. He'll probably get to me by Monday. Okay. Let me go through, pull this up. I gotta make sure we've got this. And I gotta open up one more thing. Oh no, I dropped the music. Okay, I do that later. Okay, all right. Are we ready to do this?
Yeah, let's do it.
So let me before we do this, let me ask you one more thing. What do you think about? And I'm springing this on you now. What do you think about taking the video from the show and like making it available to Patreon only.
Smart.
You want to do that? You good with that?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I feel sheepish asking because for me, like, I don't care what I look like. It's the show. I don't really care about what I look like. But some people are like, oh, wait, you're doing video. Oh, I didn't do the thing. And so if you're good with it, then I'm good with it.
Yeah, you know me.
Jenny, I think you look great today, so I'm not worried at all.
Man.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. That's a
all right,
good idea.
let's do this. All right, let me start my stopwatch. So I've got, so you know that I've been released, right?
Yes.
One of my youth is texting me right now saying, hey, I listened to your show last week talking about Utah Mormons. That was fascinating because he came from Utah in like December of last year into our ward. And I'm like, wait a minute, you found the show? Yeah, it's a really good show. You guys do really good. And it's like, oh, boy, I'm really uncomfortable that you listened to that show. But
welcome to my world. That was the deal when I started blogging, and then people at church would be like, I read your blog. And that's, like I say, when I was like, I did not write that for you.
I had, no joke, someone giving a talk saying, from the pulpit, saying, I always get nervous when I see Brandt looking down at his phone because I don't want this to end up on his podcast. And it's like, oh boy, that's okay. All right.
I've had people quote my Facebook more than once.
Yeah. And it's just kind of like, oh, wow, you actually read that, huh? That's really.
Yeah. Well, shoot.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Should we do this?
Yeah, and I'll just do these screenshots here. I'm just going to put them right into the doc because they're funny.
Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1. Oh, wrong button. Wrong button again. Ah, man. See, I like to think that I'm all smooth with this, but I'm really not. I just fake it as I go and I hit random buttons. Okay. 3, 2, 1. No, stop. Reset. Start. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Mormon News Report podcast. This is episode number 74 for the week of January 28th, 2018, the BYU edition. Hello, I'm Brandt. I'm joining you live from Detroit, Michigan, and joined, as always, with me is my partner in crime, one Jenny Noonan Dye. Jenny, how are you this week?
Yo, real good, Brandt. Real good.
Yo, that's... Are we getting a little street now, Jenny? Is that where we're going with this?
Getting? Yes. No. Nope.
I gotta betray a little bit of confidences of you and I, Jenny. Okay. Before we get started into the show, you and I were talking a little bit, and we were exchanging some emojis. I believe the kids these days are referring to them, and you sent me an emoji, and then come to realize that you learned that this emoji that you sent me is very different from what I thought it was. And it's one of those things where I'm realizing, A, here we are, I'm 35 and you're not 35, and we're talking about emojis, which is always really awkward and uncomfortable, right? But B, Jenny, am I really that out of touch that like I use them sometimes, but it's not natural to me? And then I look at like some of the teenagers that I sit around, and like that's their whole life is doing this, and it's like a completely different language.
Well, yeah, exactly that. It is its own language, and so you best know what you're talking about, because otherwise you'll say things that you don't mean to say. And so what full disclosure, the conversation we were having was you were ready to begin, and I was like, oh, my computer is restarting right now. And I did this emoji that I used one time with my daughter, the one who's now on a mission, and she was like, Mom, don't use that emoji. It's the one that's an upside down smiley face. And she's like, yeah, that means I want to kill myself.
And I almost want to say, like, no, it doesn't. I look at that and it's like, okay, that's like a goofy smile. But apparently,
you don't know.
It's a lot darker than I thought, Jenny.
Yeah, I thought it was more like a shrug, like, man, like, I'm still happy, but life's crazy, right? I mean, my computer restarting. Can you even... Yeah, that is not what that means.
No, apparently not. Well, and then I don't remember how this came about, but my 5-year-old daughter was telling me something along the lines of, yeah, I'm a peach because a peach kind of looks like a bum. And I was like, You're 5. How do you understand what that emoji is supposed to mean when sometimes people are texting each other back and forth? And anyways, Jenny, what I'm trying to say is, kids these days, I don't understand it. I don't get it. You're probably never ever going to get an emoji.
Hashtag elderly every time.
I'm well aware of that. I got to tell you, we are buckled down. We're supposed to get 5 to 8 inches of snow tomorrow. It's going to be insane.
Really?
It's going to be insane here in Michigan. We've hardly gotten any snow. And this is what Michigan does to you, by the way. They trick you and think, oh, it's going to be a mild winter. It's going to be a mild winter. And it's end of January, beginning of February, and you just get nailed every single year. So basically, I mean, my big head honcho at work, my big boss at work, sent an email out to everyone saying, we're supposed to get this, so do not come in on Monday. And, we're bracing for impact here, and it's supposed to hit tomorrow at like 6 or 7 in the morning. So that's why I'm glad we're doing the show tonight, because I can't guarantee that we'll have power tomorrow, depending on how crazy this all gets.
Oh, wow. That was us last week. A week ago, we had the big storm. So, thoughts and prayers for Jerseys. But
that's what it is for us. Like, it's usually a week after you guys get it, we get it. So, anyways, yes, thoughts and prayers for us. We're going to need it. All right. Should we do some news, Jenny?
Yes, let's.
Okay, so we've got actually a lot of politics news, but I think there's a lot of Mormon tie-ins. So just brace yourself, everyone, if you don't particularly care for Utah politics. This was a story that I was really surprised at, Jenny. There is a hate crimes law in Utah, and there are efforts right now in the Utah legislature to strengthen that law. And the chief lobbyist for the church actually had to come out and say last Wednesday night that he wanted to speak on this issue because there's this perception that the church derailed the bill in past legislative sessions. So this is a quote from the church's lobbyist, Marty Stevens. He said, continually, we're being blamed as the ones holding this up, this hate crimes legislation law. And so we wanted to let people know that since 2016, we have not taken a position on hate crimes. We are not opposed to a hate crimes piece of legislation. So the big key sticking point right now is including LGBT individuals as part of this hate crimes legislation, that crimes against them, specifically hate crimes, will be considered, well, crimes against them that meet certain qualifications will be considered hate crimes.
Right.
So again, Marty Stevens, we all should know him. He did a lot of work with medicinal marijuana in Utah. He was the chief lobbyist for the church during that. He was also a former Utah House Speaker. And he said the church is probably not going to comment on any specific proposal. He said that a hate crimes bill covers specific groups and should not omit anyone typically included in such legislation. We don't think anyone should be excluded that's typically targeted. Gary Herbert said that he's open to talking about beefing up the hate crimes law. Quote, the fact that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints evidently has weighed in on this and has said that they're not opposed to it can't hurt the possibilities. I don't know that it changes everyone's mind, but I think it's certainly a discussion we ought to have. Troy Williams, who is the head of Equality Utah, a prominent, how would you describe them, Jenny? They're an LGBT group, but I'm not sure that that's really doing it justice to what.
Yeah, they're more. Okay, Equality Utah. Yeah, you keep going. I'll look it up for maybe a brief definition.
Okay. Yeah. Anyways, they're a very prominent group within Utah when it comes to LGBT individuals. And Troy said hate doesn't discriminate. Both LGBTQ people and Latter-day Saints have a history of being victims of hate and violence. So with this new clarification, we hope lawmakers aside other faith and ethnic communities will unite in support of this legislation. When asked why the church hadn't previously clarified its stance, Marty Stevens explained that the faith is in an unusual position, which is a very interesting quote from him. We're criticized when we do comment on legislation, he said, and in this particular case, we're criticized when we don't comment on legislation. So, Jenny, and we're going to hit another story in a little bit that alludes to this and leads to this a little bit, but there's a part of me that says this is kind of the bed that you've made to lie in a little bit, because now we're at a point where the church comments a lot on these public social issues, or I wouldn't say social issues, but specifically pieces of legislation. And yeah, Marty's right. The church gets criticized when they do comment, and now they're not commenting and they're criticizing him. So the question I have for you is that valid criticism that people are levying against the church when it comes to some of these things?
Meaning that they are involved? Like, how dare you?
Kind of, or more like, wait a minute, you had no problem getting involved when it was something like medicinal marijuana or alcohol laws in Utah. You had no problem making public comments on that. But now that there's a bill out there to beef up the hate crimes legislation law that includes LGBT individuals, you're oddly silent on that.
Yeah, well, it's just interesting because it happens here, which again, we will get into later with a different story. But I just think it's interesting that they're like, wait, listen, like just for the record, since 2016, we haven't done anything. Because you don't often hear them say, for the record, we weighed in here. So that's interesting. EqualityUtah.org, their mission is to secure equal rights and protections for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer Utahns and their families. Their vision is a fair and just Utah, and their issues are non-discrimination, LGBTQ families, victim targeting, LGBTQ youth, transgender Utahns, and suicide prevention. Hashtag not sponsored.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's the most accurate to call them an advocacy group, because I don't think that that's really what they are. Maybe they're an LGBTQ support network in Utah, because it covers a lot of those things. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah, their three kind of branches are education, advocacy, and political action. Okay. So as opposed to like, I mean, not that they don't do other things, but whereas like, for instance, in Circle House, which now has also not just the location in Provo, but also there's one in Salt Lake now. They're more kind of on the ground, which isn't to say Equality Utah isn't, but whereas, they get involved politically. So
yeah. Yeah, and Troy was very involved, and Equality Utah was very involved with the Utah Compromise when it came to anti-discrimination. And so it looks like this is just the next logical step in that. Yep. Very, very quickly, because I know, Jenny, that Pot Talk Radio is your personal favorite part of the Mormon News Report podcast. This was from Dan Jones and Associates. They did a poll, and they found that LDS voters were sold on the alternative medical marijuana bill. That was the compromise that was made, not Proposition 2. So what they found was 58% of very active church members believe that the legislators' compromise of medical marijuana is better than Prop 2. 13% say that Prop 2 is better. 17% say there's no difference, and 12% say they don't know.
What was the percentage of people who read both?
That would be the interesting one. You would almost think that you have to put a qualifying in there. Did you read the did you read Proposition 2 or not? And then we'll go from there. No other religious groups had a majority in favor of the legislators' actions, while several faiths members are split over the two proposals, and others, by majorities, oppose what the legislator did. A new survey shows that overall, Utahns as a whole are split on what the legislator did, with 39% believing the legislative compromise is better than Prop 2, 34% say it's worse, and 15% said it makes no difference. However, the poll shows that active Mormons really like the compromise, which was supported by their religious leaders. So, Jenny, this isn't really a surprise to me in the fact that they were going to support it a lot more. But I think that your comment is probably the biggest one, is there's a lot of stuff in both of those compromises that people need to read and to consider. And the other thing is, and listen, I'm really not that much of a marijuana advocate, despite what I might appear like on the radio. But there's a big part of me that says, well, yeah, that makes sense. And I personally, I think I know why they did it, but I think it's a little bit too early to put a poll out there like that, because everybody in Utah is still trying to kind of come to grips with what does this mean for the state, what are the impacts on it, et cetera. I mean, Denver right now is still trying to get to a point where they say, was this a good thing? Was this a bad thing? I don't know, to have marijuana legislated. So another story, Jenny, that I know that you are super passionate about, the Detroit Lions, your personal favorite National Football League team. Am I right, Jenny?
You know who Marv Levy is?
I do know who Marv Levy is.
That's my era, man. And my daughter, my sister who lives in Pittsburgh, got a dog recently. His name is Marv Levy.
Marv is a good dog's name. I'm going to throw that out there, Jenny. Marv is a great dog's name.
Anyway, hashtag Bills forever. I don't even know what that means. I still think Marv Levy's the coach. He isn't. The end. Go ahead. Okay.
Anyways, so the Detroit Lions, obviously my personal favorite NFL team, and Jenny's too, other than the Bills.
For sure.
They have a new offensive coordinator. This offensive coordinator is Darren Bevell. Bevell is a fellow member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, served his mission in Cleveland, Ohio.
Wait. When?
Probably a while ago, because I can't imagine he's that young.
Our friend Richard served in Cleveland.
Maybe he knows Darren Bevell. Richie, maybe. I know you're listening. You need to let me know if you know him or not. He was named the new offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. He is a Super Bowl champion as an offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks in 2014. And I got to pull a few quotes out of this Detroit Free Press article because, again, this is a very non-Mormon publication talking about a Mormon. So a couple of things. Our strength coach came upstairs and talked to Coach Barry Alvarez and said, and this was when Bavel was in college and he was playing at the University of Wisconsin. He said, look, if we put this guy in our program, we're going to kill him. He goes, he has no base at all. He said, we need to start him jogging around the outside of the field just to build up a cardiovascular base. And I asked Darren Bavel about it, and he said, Coach, the only running I've done in the last 2 years is from dogs and guys with guns. So that tells you what his mission was like. He was a head coach at Iowa State from 95 to 2006, and former Wisconsin defensive coordinator Dan McCartney threw a party before the spring game every year for his staff, boosters, media, and others around the team. And often he would ask his graduate assistants to bartend the event as a way for them to make some extra money for all the hours they spent around the team. Bavel was an offensive coordinator for Dan McCartney when this happened. Bavel worked the party during his one season at Iowa State in 97, but as a Mormon who doesn't drink, he needed a crash course in bartending from McCartney minutes before the event began. So this is what McCartney said. Bev goes, hey, Mac, listen, can you show me a few things? I go, what are you talking about? He goes, I've never bartended. I never drank and I never bartended. So I'm giving him this crash course on bartending about 20 minutes before the party explodes on scene at our house. And we laughed and laughed and laughed. But anyways,
he asked for a rum and Coke. What's in that? Womp.
I can get you the Coke. Which Coke are we talking about here? Because I've never bartended, so I don't know what kind. Anyways, as usual with Bev, he learned on the run, did a hell of a job. He ended up being a pretty good bartender that night, and he is known within some circles as frickin' Darren Bavel. So, Jenny, we were talking about this before the show went on the air. I probably need to know a little bit more boundaries in my life and when I should and should not reach out to people, but I'm going to get his email address, and I'm going to see if I can bring him on for 20 minutes to see if we can do a quick interview. You think he'll say yes?
I hope so. That'd be awesome.
The lauded and mighty Mormon News Report, he's got to say yes to that. How could you not, right?
For real.
Okay, one more politics story. This was one that came out this week from the Salt Lake Tribune. The Utah legislator is now sworn in office. They're ready to go. And in this incoming legislature, 3 out of every 4 members are men. Granted, Jenny, that's really not surprising in a place like Utah. That lopsided majority is still smaller than the big margin Republicans enjoy. 4 out of every 5 members of the Utah legislature are Republicans. Again, for those of you who
surprising.
Not surprising, right? But another, even larger supermajority exists. 9 out of every 10 legislators are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They hold a 91-13 edge, according to research by the Salt Lake Tribune, using past surveys, campaign websites, social media pages, blah, 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 blah. 12 out of 13 non-LDS lawmakers are Democrats. Latter-day Saints hold an 87.5% of the seats, while recent state data shows that 61.6% of Utahns are members of the state's predominant faith. That means the number of seats held by Latter-day Saints is about 42% higher than their population would predict. Jim DeBacchus, former Mormon, Democrat, openly gay, very vocal about certain things. Jim DeBacchus is actually, Jenny, a really funny guy to listen to. I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah.
Opinion.
Yeah, he's great. I like him.
I think he has a lot of security in his seat. And so he could say what he wants. DeBacchus, and I think he's in Salt Lake, isn't he?
Yes.
He represents Salt Lake. DeBacchus said that in past years, the church did not lobby just to marshal votes, but also to listen to concerns, communicate, and negotiate. For example, he says that he and the late Latter-day Saint apostle L. Tom Perry had, quote, excruciating, long, and difficult meetings, end quote, before they came up with the 2015 bill to ban housing and job discrimination against gays. While such bills had been founded for years, once the church endorsed the negotiated legislation, this is going to be shocking, it passed with ease. Now, there is not enough listening going on to the people who are not LDS, DeBacchus said. There isn't even a perfunctory check-in anymore. DeBacchus' complaints that decisions, for example, about Utah's new toughest in the nation drunken driving laws, quote, were made by people who don't drink and many of whom have never had a drink, end quote, and drinkers and non-LDS folk feel disenfranchised. So, Jenny, there's a lot that I want to talk about with this, but there is another follow-up article that we should talk about that pertains to this one, right?
Yep. Yeah, Michelle Quist wrote, and because it was interesting when I heard about this first article, I was like, wait just a second. And she addresses some of the very things that I thought. So Michelle Quist,
Jenny, I really like Michelle. She does a
Same.
lot of commentary pieces in the Salt Lake Tribune. I believe she's also a fellow member of the church. Is she not?
Mm-hmm. I believe so. I believe she's is she an attorney?
I think so. Yeah.
Single mom.
Very smart woman. And yep. I really like the way that she writes.
I do too. She says, good and bad reasons explain the disparity. White male patriarchy tend to elect white male patriarchy. On the other side, church members are encouraged to give back and serve the community, and many do. So there may be a higher percentage of church members running and not necessarily a bias among voters. So that's one. Like if you're going to have people running, you've got a high number of people who are members of the church here, then there's a larger pool, of people to pull from that are people who would run.
And can I also add one other thing too? I think what we do within the church, as far as training people to speak publicly, training people to be very assertive in certain things, training people to be very, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but just the self-reliance that we put on people and the assertiveness that we kind of train within people in the church, to me, it naturally transitions to, if you've been someone who has been in a leadership position in the church, that would transition to, well, yeah, I feel like I can help lead the community. And I would say the church encourages that among people. So yeah, it really doesn't surprise me that much.
And even little steps like that, we have children giving like public speaking. I mean, there are a lot of leadership skills that translate into the real world that we just do culturally. Mm-hmm. Okay, so but then she says, but what is the purpose of heralding such facts and figures? Are we going to start asking candidates their religious affiliation? Do we want legislation to correct the disparity? No. Hello, SB 54 version 2, meet the Constitution. Version 2, right? Is that what it is? Yeah.
That's version 2. And I think that, and I'm looking at it really quickly, but that state bill was relating to the nomination of candidates and basically said you can't have some of these things in there. I don't disagree with it. It's not right for someone to say, and by the way, I'm a Mormon. Well, I mean, not just,
and I vote for this and I vote for this and I'm a Mormon.
But almost to have a part in there, like, you have to declare. I think it's not a bad thing, although I disagree with it. It's not a bad thing to disclose whether you are a Republican or a Democrat, right?
Sure.
That's one of those things you have to disclose. Should you also have to disclose your religious affiliation as well? Because I think that's what she's saying. And yeah, that's probably not appropriate.
Yeah, I don't think it's appropriate. I also think that let me finish these things.
Yep.
Well, I just I think it's like we make it a bigger deal because we live here. So I'll explain what I mean in a minute. She said, former state senator Jim DeBacchus has a better read on the issue. He noted that the outsized influence is more of a result of who is doing the influencing, specifically the church lobbyists. DeBacchus saw a dramatic change when Marty Stevens was hired as the church's lobbyist in 2017. Stevens is a former Utah House Speaker. Thus, his former approach was partisan. His current approach is partisan. In fact, rumors are circulating that the church's public affairs office has recently had an exodus of staff. Mm-hmm. It's not only non-members who find the aggressive middle managers off-putting. So one of the things that she talked about also is like why is this a big deal? Like, is it surprising? Like we said with the original piece, no. Is it a big disparity? Yeah, and I totally get that. You've got people legislating drinking laws who don't even have experience with drinking. That would be very, very frustrating. I would think it would be like men legislating on, say, women's health issues or medical issues, maybe on a national level. I mean, I could be wrong.
I don't even know what you're talking about with that. If there's anything that we should take out of this, I know more about your body than you do. So you should just listen to me, the man, and I'll tell you exactly what you need to know about everything going on with your body. Just trust me on that one.
You forgot to start with well, actually.
Well, actually. Okay, so let me.
Yeah. So, but also, well, one more thing is just that, sometimes it's like brought out as like a big shock news piece that, oh my gosh, like look at all the Mormons, but like where I grew up in New York, all Catholic. Well, a little Amish, some Baptist, mostly Catholic. It wasn't a big surprise that people in the public eye then are Catholic because they're there. Does that make sense?
No, it does. Now I'll say this. I think that sometimes there are some scare tactics that go along with religious majorities in certain areas. So I'm thinking a lot of times of sometimes if there is a large influx of Muslims in a certain area, you'll start hearing some scare tactics and some fear mongering that goes on saying, oh, they're going to bring in Sharia law and they're not going to respect our law and things like that. And I could tell you, Jenny, we have Southeast Michigan has a very substantial Muslim population. And I live close to one of those Muslim populations, and we've never heard anything about that. It doesn't happen. Now, that being said, you start to take a look at some of the things that go on in Utah. And I think the difference is because the church is centralized in Utah, there is some concern there. You know, when you think about things like, when you think about sex education in a place like Utah, when you think about things like the blood alcohol content in a place like Utah. And again, I'm someone who I've never drank in my life, okay? But I hear about some of the things that go on there, and that does play a factor. Now, that being said, the question that keeps popping up in my mind is the church has been a central figure in Utah for a long, long time, okay? Why now in 2018? Is this just something, and I was going to call you 2019, thank you. I was going to call you my woman on the street, but that's probably not the best phrasing. So I'll just call you my boots on the ground. How's that? The person who has their ear to the heartbeat of Utah. I'm trying to dig myself out of this hole, Jenny.
Woman on the street with all the hot takes.
The hottest of all the hot. Anyways, so I've got to ask you, is this something that you've heard ramping up more and more in Utah, that people are becoming more and more concerned with this? Is this just a few, and I like the Salt Lake Tribune, but is this just a few outlets, namely the Salt Lake Tribune and a few reporters who have concerns about this, or are things escalating, and does the church maybe need to take another look at some of the things that they're doing with their public affairs?
I don't think that the church doesn't need to take a look at the things they're doing with public affairs. However, I don't think this is new news. I think that, you know, it makes sense that it's being brought to the forefront with current issues. But this is something that has, as long as I've been paying attention, like, oh my gosh, there are so many Mormons, and they affect these things in a way that, like, essentially they're not representing the entirety of their constituency. And it's easy for people who are members of the church to be like, well, like just very comfortable because they feel like morally, which morality is part of politics, you know, political decisions. They feel like, well, I'm in line. What's interesting to me is that there seems to be this shift of, like, I mean, and the marijuana bill is a great example of, like, you find people who are like, I don't agree. You know, so yeah, I guess to answer your question, yes and no. Like it's not new news, but it certainly is applicable.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of this also applies to maybe the shift that's going on in national politics and how people are reevaluating their positions on not only certain issues, but also allegiances to certain parties.
Sure.
You're seeing almost a fracturing right now of what's going on both in the Republican and the Democratic parties. You know, the Democratic Party there are certain factions who are wanting to push it a lot more to the left and make it a lot more progressive. I'm thinking along the lines of, you know, people like Bernie Sanders, people like Elizabeth Warren, even Alexandria Cortez to an extent,
yes.
Right? And then there's people on the Republican side who are doing the same thing. They want to push it to almost a more conservative version of what we've got. So because of all this, people are really reevaluating things. The other thing I'll throw in there too is, and this is the reason why I've always been fascinated with Utah politics and the church, is so much of politics is people pleasing and making sure that you're pleasing your constituents, serving your constituents, but also, let's be honest, making sure you're getting reelected. And so if you live in an area that's got a lot of members in there, you're going to want to toe the line. If you're concerned about getting reelected, you're going to want to toe the line for what the church says, because those members know that, and you don't want to be labeled as the rogue representative who's not following the church's advice, or to some people, their commands or their dictates. So it's really interesting, and I wonder if what Michelle says is true, that they are seeing a mass exodus of people from the public affairs department, if people are getting a little disillusioned and the public affairs is going, when I first got involved with doing some work with public affairs, they were more concerned with kind of what we did with Meet the Mormons, right? Let's just get our name out there. Let's help to reshape our image a little bit and to let people know, like, if you're a Mormon, this is what it's going to look like. Mm-hmm. And now it seems like it's going in a different direction. And so there's a part of me that's got to wonder, based on some of the current leadership of the church, if that's where it's going. I'm not sure.
Well, and it's hard to know too, because a lot of these issues that they are dealing with, they are on a state level, yet the church's influence doesn't exist elsewhere. I mean, and again, the pot thing, like the email that went out, and it's like, wait a second, did you send this email to members of the church in other states where this was up for vote?
Hey, Michigan had recreational marijuana on the ballot, and I didn't see a thing. And I've got friends who are in other places, Washington, Denver, places like that. It's a major concern for them because they don't know what to do, and so they're having to watch Utah to say, okay, is the church kind of signaling where they stand on this issue? And it's just really weird to see that. So
it is weird.
Anyways, random story that I saw and was very interesting. David Matheson, who is an author of the book Becoming a Whole Man and creator of several experimental programs.
The man inside me.
This is a great book. Jenny, it changed my life. I learned so much more inside of me than I planned to. Everyone needs to watch Arrested Development so they can understand that joke. That's a funny joke. I'll give you credit for that.
Thank you. Season 1, like one of the last episodes.
Becoming the Whole Man. Anyways, he was a creator of several experiments. It could have been sexual. I don't know. Experimental programs which seek to address incongruous same-sex attraction. He's a member of the church, one who was very, very strong in his feelings on gay conversion therapy, which has made a lot of news recently. He revealed that he is now seeking to date men. The announcement was revealed by fellow gay conversion advocate Rich Weiler, foundation of the People Can Change organization, in a post to a private Facebook group obtained by Truth Wins Out, a group who's fighting against anti-LGBT prejudice and discrimination. From the Facebook post, quote, David says that living a single celibate life, quote, just isn't feasible for him, end quote. So he's seeking a male partner, he wrote. He has gone from bisexuality to exclusively gay. In a further statement to Truth Wins Out, Matheson, James Matheson, a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, confirmed the statement from Weiler. And I'm sorry, not James Matheson. David Matheson. The individual we're talking about here confirmed that statement from Weiler, adding his time in a straight marriage and the, quote, ex-gay world, end quote, was genuine and sincere and a rich blessing to me. So, Jenny, I hate to be this guy, but I'm going to be this guy. Someone very, very strong and passionate about something like gay conversion therapy, and we can fix you if you're gay, comes out that he's gay. It feels like there are some people who really fight against some things or maybe repressing other things. I don't know.
Well, it feels like he has some work to do in apologizing to people.
That's what I would think. And that's
like, oh my gosh.
And that's something that's becoming more and more prominent in the news is gay conversion therapy is becoming an offense that is gay conversion therapy is being banned in more and more states because it's just awful. And I don't want to toss any mud or anything like that. But look, the church isn't even excused from that. Look at some of the experiments that happen with BYU. If you really want to be, sick into your stomach a little bit, some of these students in the 70s at BYU, in the 60s and 70s, who went through gay conversion therapy at BYU.
It's heartbreaking.
It's awful.
It is heartbreaking.
And reading those stories is awful. So anyways, it's interesting that someone who is that strong against it now says, hey, by the way, no, I'm looking to date dudes now. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's anything wrong with that. I feel like it's a Seinfeld thing, but more along the lines of, isn't that interesting that you were fighting against it for so long and now we're here?
Yeah.
Jenny, Gen X. You are a Gen Xer, right?
Who? No, yeah, who?
I forget about you a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I am. I'm in this weird position where I'm kind of considered a millennial. I was born in '84, but not really a millennial.
Well, here's the deal. I don't group you with my kids.
That's the thing.
But I guess those are post-millennials. Yeah. Well, and it depends on which. So if you look at this chart in this article, it says that millennials are 81 to 96. My oldest, Ray, was born in 99, so that's post-millennial. But yeah, we don't Gen X. We don't exist.
No, we forget. Although, you know what, Jenny? I almost should be a post-millennial because then I could be like Post Malone, the post-millennial. And that would be wonderful for me.
Good one. Good one. Solid. That's good.
Listen, you know what? I want to say it was about 2 months ago. I actually heard one of his songs. And I was like, this isn't a bad song. And then I looked at him and I was like,
don't do that.
What is this thing?
Don't do that.
Gracious. Mm-hmm. Anyways, okay. So Jana Reese, author of the awesome The Next Mormons survey, author of the awesome The Next Mormons book. Mm-hmm. I received my copy this week. You received your copy.
I sure did.
I'm so happy that I got it. I love it. I've been pouring into a lot of her methodology because I'm sick and damn tired of everyone bagging on Jana, because they didn't like the results that she found based on just doing a survey. And so I want Jana to, gosh, I want Jana. There's too many J's around here. I want Jana to come on the show because I want to ask her a lot of those hard questions because I know that she's gotten them, but mostly because I want it on the record. Like, she did the best she possibly could. She knew all these things were going to happen, but she did the best she could. Anyways, so she's saying that even her new book doesn't focus much on Gen Xers. And basically, she calls them the unacknowledged bastard middle children of her new book, The Next Mormons, because it's primarily about millennials.
Thank you very much.
So you're a bastard middle child and a woman on the streets. Is that what we've learned on this episode?
You bet.
Everyone talks about how millennials are changing religion in America, but Gen Xers did it first. We're just too small. She considers herself a Gen Xer. So you and her are sisters, Jenny, in more ways than one. Mm-hmm. You are too small of a generation for folks to take much notice. So typical. Listen, I'm going to,
classic Gen X.
Let me throw out a big old thank you to Gen Xers. We have MTV because of you, and us millennials, I guess this is where I have to include myself, we ruined MTV. So without you guys, we don't have it.
You're welcome.
Mormons. So she wanted to
wait real quick, kids.
Okay.
MTV means music television. It is this channel where music videos, kind of like on YouTube, but professionally done, were played instead of shows all the time. It was glorious. And ask your mom.
It was like, okay, so this is where I'm a little bit younger than you, but like Total Request Live, TRL, like you had to be home to watch TRL because you had to see the latest, I don't know, Backstreet Boys video or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so she went through and she wanted to look at how Gen Xers are a little bit different from others, and so she threw us a little bit of some nice little breadcrumbs here to whet our appetite until we get the book. So she asked, Mormons who are troubled by the church's emphasis on conformity and obedience by generation. So she asked these individuals from very troubling to a little troubling to not at all troubling, the church's emphasis on conformity and obedience. So this shouldn't surprise anyone, but the boomer and silent generation, 69% said they weren't troubled by their emphasis on conformity and obedience. A little troubling, Gen Xers were at about 32%. Very troubling, millennials were at 26%. So you can kind of see how this generational shift is happening. Jana says Gen Xers and millennials are pretty conflicted. The major generational drop on this issue doesn't begin with the millennials, but with the Gen Xers, just over half of whom are bothered by the focus on conformity. Most Gen Xers are very religious, especially when compared to non-Mormon Americans. Gen X Mormons, though, are a little less dogmatic about their beliefs than the boomer or silent generations, though they are more sure than millennials. Here's what Gen X Mormons say about the church's resurrection.
Christ's resurrection.
I'm sorry, Christ's resurrection. Man, Jenny, it's all
right.
Oh, I need glasses like you. That's what I need. 7 in 10 Gen X Mormons are confident and know that Christ's resurrection was a literal, actual event. Another 18% believe it's true. This means that a whopping 9 out of 10 Gen X Mormons believe in the resurrection. In short, you Gen Xers are a generation in the middle, which is how it's always been for Gen Xers, a small cohort sandwiched between the huge baby boom and the boomlet millennials.
Yep.
So I would recommend for any of you Gen Xers who are listening, in the show notes, you can actually see all these news stories that we're posting. Click on her story and read it because she puts a lot of tables in there that really doesn't do well over an audio medium to describe these tables to you. So click on that, read it. It's really, really good. Okay, Jenny, next story. This one is all you because you have a connection to this story, right?
Sort of. I heard, and it's true, you guys, the St. George, Utah temple is closing temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
The temple will close November 4th, 2019, as crews begin extensive structural, mechanical, electrical, finishing, and plumbing work. The renovation is expected to be completed in 2022. So that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so St. George, in case you don't know, is the very most southern city in Utah along Interstate 15. And there's a temple there. It's the first temple that was dedicated in Utah, I believe. And the connection here is just that that's where my daughter chose to be endowed before her mission. She loves that temple. So the first thing I thought was, oh, if she wants to get married there, then she'll have to wait even longer after she gets home. So yay.
She can go ahead and wait.
I know she can do whatever she wants. I'm not the boss of her.
And knowing, I don't know, you know Ray better than I know Ray because I know Ray.
Right.
But I will say this: everything that you've told me, she seems like a very independent woman, and so I'm not too concerned about her, getting married immediately after she gets off the plane.
Yeah.
But I will say that.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, like, I get really uncomfortable with missionaries who get married immediately after they get home because it's like, man, you gotta experience being single for a little bit. You gotta date. You gotta, like, just because you're a little Twitter-pated with someone doesn't mean you need to go out and get hitched.
Yep, agreed. That is actually one of the platforms for the book that John Dye and I, no, we're not, but it is one of the things that we we both feel strongly about is not to rush into marriage after your mission. And you are right. My daughter is very independent. I have known since she was, I want to say 4, but it was even before that girl was going to do whatever she wanted. And I would have very little influence on that. So
Amen.
Anyway, so again, St. George closing this November, work expected on the renovation to be completed in the year 2022. Remember, though, there is the Cedar City Temple there, so that would probably expect that one to be more busy during that time.
And Ashley was telling me it's only about 45 minutes away or something like that, so it's not far.
Yeah, it's not far at all. And I mean, people in Cedar have been driving to St. George for years to go to the temple. So,
but listen, if I could just bag on some Utahns just a little bit,
sure.
You know that there's going to be whispers and murmurs of, oh, God, we got to drive 45 minutes to go to the temple. Are you kidding me? We got to drive 45 minutes to go to the temple. To which I want to say, suck it up, Buttercup. Like, you're fine. You are fine if you have to drive 45 minutes to go to the temple. It's okay.
I drive a few times a week when I go down and like spend the afternoon and evening with my kids. I drive by 5 temples. 5.
Yeah.
We are so spoiled. Utah privilege. I know that's what you call it. Utah privilege.
And I can't complain too much considering the only temple in Michigan is like 25 minutes from my house. So
see, that's not bad. No, and what was it before though? Before it was that one.
We had to go to Toronto, which is about
Toronto.
4.5 hours away.
That was the one that I went to. Like when I was 12, it was DC. It's like a 12-hour bus ride. But then Toronto was built, and that was my temple as a youth.
The other thing, Jenny, that was surprising about this story was like this created a lot of news for a lot of people. And maybe I'm just outside of Utah, so it doesn't affect me much. But it's like, okay, so they're going to shut down St. George for a little bit. Nelson said it was going to happen. He said they're going to shut down Salt Lake for a little bit and others that need to go through these structural repairs. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to happen.
Sure.
Another story out of St. George this past weekend, there was a fire. This one took a very interesting turn. There was a fire on Saturday at 1:30 in the morning at an LDS church near 300 East and 500 South in St. George. It was a stake center building that was under construction. It was scheduled to be open in a couple of weeks. So, people were like, oh, wow, that's really sad. That sucks. And then the St. George Police Department announced yesterday that the investigation into the fire is now criminal. We believe this fire started at the exterior of the building and is based on some evidence we found. There is no heat or electrical reasoning for the fire to start there. We are treating it as a criminal investigation right now until we find anything different. Apparently, they found some accelerant or something at the scene where the fire started, and so they are treating it as an arson, basically.
So probably arson, yeah.
Yep, crews from the St. George Fire Department, Santa Clara Irvins Fire and Rescue in Washington City, and the Hurricane City Fire Department battled the blaze for hours before the fire finally consumed the building, causing the steeple to collapse. So it's done. It's gone.
Holy moly. I mean, that's a lot of
It's a big, it's
Support.
a Utah State Center, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and brand new, and yeah, shoot.
So it really sucks. Can I tell you the best rumor that I've heard about it that just made me laugh out loud? Someone was claiming that that the church possibly did this for insurance fraud.
Oh yeah, that's what they. Well, they're short of money.
Of course, yeah, of course, yeah.
And that's a smart way to get money.
Right. So
sure.
People. Okay, so Jenny, we're going to do a couple of things. We are going to break real quick. If you don't want our ad breaks, you can become a Patreon member where you're going to get a couple of fun things with Patreon. You are going to get the unedited feed of Jenny and I. And when I say unedited, we usually blabber for a little bit before the show and blabber for a little bit afterwards. So you can hear all the stupid, awkward jokes I make to Jenny and you can hear her chomping on chips and stuff like that.
Crackers.
I'm sorry. And also, you get the show ad-free. You don't have to listen to the ads that we have. It's just a nice little perk for those of you who support us. It's really cool that you do it. So patreon.com/Mormon News Report. Jenny, let's break. And then when we come back, we don't have another story. But what we do have
entertainment
is a little bit of entertainment and Jenny and I attempting to be funny. So we will be right back after this. Okay. We ready to go, Jenny? Ready to do this?
Yep.
Okay, so let me tell everyone, boy, this could either go really well or go really awkwardly. So everyone just brace yourself for potential cringeworthiness. There is a phenomenal Twitter account called HeardAtBYU, at HeardAtBYU.
HEARD at BYU.
Yes. Although, Jenny, would it surprise you if there's like HERD, like a herd of cattle at BYU, and someone created a Twitter account for that?
Quick sign up for it. Okay. Before you publish this.
You do that, and we'll squat on that one for a little bit. So the funny thing about this account is I sincerely believe that almost all of these that they post are legitimate. It's things that people have sent to them. And anyone who has been at BYU should appreciate any of these. So Jenny, here's what I'm going to do. Okay. I'll read one and then you read one and let's see if these are accurate, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, how about this one? Hey dude, do you want to go to a hot tub and read the Book of Mormon later is a direct quote I overheard from a kid last night. First of all, Jenny, I don't know about you, but whenever I go into a hot tub, I'm looking for another dude. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's my first one. And number two, maybe if I'm concerned that someone might report me for being in a hot tub with another dude, I make sure to have a Book of Mormon there to make sure that we have a Book of Mormon between us. And if anyone asks, hey, what are two dudes doing in the hot tub? Not that there's anything wrong with that. Oh, hey, we're just reading the Book of Mormon together.
Solid.
Okay. What do you got?
Ready?
Okay.
I'm considering going on a mission just to avoid going back to school next semester.
Listen, I got to tell you something.
School's hard, Brandt. School is hard.
School is very hard. I just started my school this past week.
Congratulations.
You probably know this. You are probably one of the few people who could appreciate this like I can. It sucks going back to school when you're older.
It's the worst.
And I really enjoy doing this. I'm going for my master's. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time, right? I'm going for my MBA, and I'm sitting here looking at a book on business statistics saying, I did this before, and studying sucks, and it's hard. So maybe that's what I should do, to say, you know what, Ashley, I know that we spent all this time trying to get ready for me to go back to school, to get our family ready for it, and you know what? No, you know what? I'm going to go on a mission instead of having to come back to school for this semester.
That makes sense. Here's the deal though, Brandt. Like, I bet you will find, once you get into it, it's like, oh my gosh, I can so do this. Like, because you get back into it and you're like, ugh, this is awful. But then, like, once you get over that, like, well, for me, and it was a year ago, actually, and it was this, like, all right, it's seriously, like, the ad drop deadline is tomorrow. Am I actually going to go through with this? But once it got to it, it was like, and for mine, it was a Spanish class. And the professor was like, I just had so little belief in myself about it. He's like, you're like this, you've got, like, consistently the second highest grade in this class. Like, the first highest was this guy from Italy. And, and he's like, you are killing it. Like, stop. As an adult, like, you know how to multitask, and you'll find, like, as you get actually toward the end of the semester and people start like being like, I don't want to do this anymore. You'll push through and you'll be like, I've got this. You'll be great.
Can I tell you the other thing that I've learned too? And this, you probably had this same feeling when you were going back. Like, I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Like, I want to learn this.
Yes, exactly.
When I was a college student in my 20s, it was like, man, I just gotta get through this. Where it's like, I really want to understand this. So
yes. Yep.
Okay. So you brought up Spanish. I got one. You ready for this one?
Yep.
Quote, he's Spanish. Well, he's not Spanish, but he served his mission in Spain, so it's basically the same thing. Jenny,
Yep.
I don't know about you, but let me just tell you, I know that when I look at people who serve their mission in a foreign country, I say they're basically, a native of that country. So
they think they are.
They think they are. All right, what do you got?
Whoa, dude, bro, give me a bro hug. Goodness sakes.
Bro hugs are like, there's a lot of bro hugs that go on at BYU. Like, dudes are huggy at BYU, especially with other dudes. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but like, they love to give them some hugs.
Yes, they do.
Maybe this is like toxic masculinity reversed at BYU. Like, people are getting in touch with their more sensitive side to just hug it out a little bit more. How about this one? This is from an Idaho dude. You're an international student, right? Me. I'm from Oregon. I will fully tell you this. I completely played up the fact that I was a Detroiter in Idaho to the fullest extent of the law. Like, it was like, heck yeah, guys. I'm a Detroiter. Let me tell you about life on the streets in Detroit. We don't need to tell you that I'm like, quite a ways outside the city. I'm just going to let you believe that, like, I've seen some stuff. Okay.
Oh yeah. No, I grew up in New York is what I told everyone.
Yes,
Never mind that it was like a 6 or so hour drive from the city, which I'd only been to once before moving to Provo. And it was the week before I moved to Provo. And that there are cows across the road, not even the street. But I got a lot of, so could you see the Statue of Liberty from your house?
Oh,
yep.
Totally. Oh, totally.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Let me tell you about life on the streets of Harlem.
Okay. Sunday pro tip. This made me actually laugh out loud. When they're saying the sacrament prayer on the water, unscrew your hydro flask so it gets blessed too. Boom. 40 ounces of ice cold blessed water that you can use at your leisure.
This is like, we need like Mormon life hacks. This is a Mormon life hack, Jenny. And I'm surprised. First of all, let me tell you this. I don't know what it was like for you living in Provo, but I know when I was in Idaho, BYU Idaho girls, they loved to haul around water bottles, like especially to church. And it was like they could not go 5 minutes before making sure that their thirst was quenched because they had to make sure that they were drinking. So think about it this way, right? Now you don't have to worry about just drinking basic water. You get blessed, holy, spiritual water whenever 40 ounces of ice cold, blessed refreshment.
Use at your leisure.
Listen, let me tell you this. The science of it, it works because when you're going to consecrate oil, all you have to do is just unscrew the top of the oil and you could consecrate it that way. Why does it apply to water bottles?
Yeah.
All right.
Why not? Okay.
Okay. This girl in my writing class made up her fake company name for her press releases. So you ready for this? Her fake company name for her press releases, this is probably a PR class. She called her company the Happy Endings Association. Should I tell her? Listen, the one thing, they are so genuine in their innocence.
It's true. And if she doesn't, well, someone will tell her. You can choose who you want it to be. So
I don't know. I'd love to be a professor there to sit there and say, all right, what do I do? Let me tell you this. The bad thing about professors at BYU is they are so dependent on their student evaluations. And so they have to make sure that they're really uber spiritual because that's a big factor in things. So if you're that professor, do you sit there and go, okay, what do I do? Do I tell this whole class or do I tell her, do I risk sullying the minds of these wonderfully innocent vessels? Or do I say, yeah, you can't have your publicity company called the Happy Endings Association?
Yeah, I guess I would just be like, so tell me more about what your company does.
What is it that you say you do here?
Yeah. Because you're going to get clients that you, I promise, do not want. So
Jenny, who knows? Maybe she's representing like a massage business or something like that.
precisely.
I don't know.
Okay.
What do you got?
That's the thing that's hard about Provo is that some boys look like my eternal companion and the rest look like the 11-year-old deacon that passed the sacrament to me last Sunday.
Okay, how true is this? You lived in Provo for a while. Yeah. How true is this?
Probably very.
Yeah. There is almost a fountain of youth in Provo, and I need to find it somewhere because I sometimes look at people and say, how on earth are you like 35 years old? As a dude, you're 35 years old, you've got 6 kids, you still have a full head of hair, you haven't grayed yet, you still have a face that looks like you just turned 16 and you're able to date. What animals are you sacrificing to get to this point? What unicorns are you sacrificing to bathe in their blood?
Thank you, Brandt. I started having kids when I was 12. You didn't mean me. No. But you met my husband.
Yeah, well, okay, he's yes. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing about John Dye, because I know John Dye listens. Here's the thing about John Dye. John Dye sets up unrealistic expectations for every single man out there. Do you know how rough it is to have Ashley looking at the stuff John Dye does for you, and then to look at me and say, what are you doing, Brandt? Well, I got my hand down my pants, itching myself like crazy because I'm a dude and that's what we do, right? So it's tough to live up to the high statute that is John Dye.
Social media is very manipulatable.
Boy, I wonder if he has any experience in that or something.
I'm just saying, like, and I don't mean to, we all know what that means. Okay. Is it your turn or is it my turn?
My turn. Guy on a speakerphone with his mom. His mom. You need to get married soon. I'm losing a lot of weight, and this can't go to waste. Have you talked about marriage with her? You need to. I will not have this. Let me tell you something, Jenny.
She's not wrong.
One thing that I learned about dating girls when I was in Rexburg is sometimes it's not the girl you got to worry about; it's the mom, because the moms are like, "Oh, I'm ready. You're decent. You'll do. You pass. So let's do this already."
Yikes.
All right, let's do one more each, and then we'll do some sunshine.
Okay. Just one more each?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh wait, did you see mine? These are tweets that like they're not heard at BYU, but I sometimes take screenshots of tweets and send them to my daughter because they make me laugh. So this one from someone named Giovanna. I hope they don't mind that I'm doing this, but part of my soul is yeeted into the third ring of hell every time a guy in my class asks to say a prayer in their mission language.
Okay, stop. This is going to be me being old. Stop.
You don't know what
does that even mean? Part of my soul is yeeted. Like, am I really that old, Jenny? I don't understand this.
My kids say it all the time.
I don't know. I don't know. And I will say this. The prayer in their mission language thing, holy moly. Like, this one is just... this one's rough. I knew people who did that. I knew people. Oh, you know what? Here's another one. While we get your internet back, Jenny.
Yeah.
Here's another one. The dude who is fresh off his mission and is giving a talk in a BYU singles ward and has to say, "Wait, I forgot that word." In English.
I forgot the word in English. Okay, man. Okay, you don't know the word for triangle? Whatever.
Listen, I will say this, okay? My first week being home, the last little bit of my mission, I did a lot of translating for people because for some reason my brain was able to work both ways really quickly. It's probably because of my ADD or something like that. And so I got really good at translating. And so the first week I'm home, I went to Taco Bell. I hadn't had Taco Bell in 2 years. I go to Taco Bell, right? And I was at the drive-thru, and it was taking me forever to order because when the person on the other end of the drive-thru would say, "Okay, please place your order," I translate what I want into Korean, and then I translate it back into English and then back into Korean because I couldn't say what I needed to say. But I'm going to be honest with you, Jenny, that lasted for like 2 days. That was it. I never went through the whole, I can't remember what I'm supposed to say.
Interesting. I didn't serve a mission, but there was a time when I would read English words and not translate them, but like in my mind pronounce them with a Spanish accent.
Yeah.
Like pronounce it as if it were Spanish. I think this last one that you're going to do is just the quintessential definition of dude bros at the BYU.
I'm glad you. Okay. Nice fanny pack, dude. Are those tacos and limes? Yeah. And some other stuff too. Sick. Man, that is a fat pack. I envy you. Let me tell you something, Jenny, about these dude bros in Provo, all right? They try so hard to be different. The thing is, I don't doubt that this was a legitimate conversation that they had. You've got the guy who's trying to be hipster and different. Hey, I got a fanny pack. And of course he's going to whip out tacos. But I could also see someone else being like, holy crap, that's a fanny pack with taco. And maybe this is just me, Jenny. I would have been sitting there going, why have I never thought about this before? 4 tacos in your fanny pack, and you've got them all the time.
That kid is my son-in-law.
Yes. Yes. That is it. Okay. So if you want more Heard at BYU, go to twitter.com/Heard, HEARD at BYU. If you'd like cows in the Provo area, go to @Heard, HERD at BYU. Jenny's going to get that up and going. Yes, but Jenny, I think we need to make this maybe a recurring segment, the Heard at BYU tweets, because it is a very special thing that we have going with BYU. Okay, Sunshine in Your Soul, what do you got?
I have to think of something too.
All right, so let me say this. The sunshine in my soul this week. It's hard being released sometimes from your calling. And I don't have a problem saying, I guess I would have less of a problem saying it over the air to a podcast of people that don't know me, or like 5 people that do know me, versus like my entire ward at church. But I really worked hard at my calling it as being a young men's president. And there's a lot of loneliness there, because it's like, man, I don't know if I'm getting through to these kids. I don't know if I'm making a difference at all. I remember driving home one night. This was 3 months after I became young men's president. And I was thinking a lot about like, just what can we do? We were only getting like 20% of the youth coming out for activities. It was rough, right? And I remember having this feeling of, and I would dare I say, it was definitely a prompting that said, you are not going to see the fruits of your labors. You are going to see a lot of seeds being planted. And so you need to be comfortable with that. And it helped put me in a different mindset. So anyways, I've been released now for about a month. It's been nice having this time back. But one of the moms actually came up to me at church today and told me that her son is really sad that I'm not with the youth organization anymore. I said, oh, wow, that's really tough. And then she said, yeah, he kind of said, now that Brandt's not in it anymore, I think maybe I'm done with the youth organization. So here's the thing. He's 18 years old. Like, he's a senior this year, right? And I think for him, it was just like, yeah, we had this really, he was my first assistant in the priest quorum, and we had a great connection. He was my texting buddy every Sunday during the Lions. And so I heard that, and I was like, that was a really nice compliment. Now, obviously, I don't want that to happen. I want him to continue with it. But it's nice to say, wow, maybe I really did have an impact. So that was my sunshine in my soul this week.
I'm just writing it down on the show sheet. Brandt, planting seeds in a garden you'll never get to see.
Oh, that sounds really deep.
Does it sound like it's from Hamilton? Because it is.
Oh, okay. Well, all right. There you go.
Yeah. Mine is kind of the same. And I feel like a lot of times when I'm like, what's the sunshine? And I'm like, oh, there's this tragedy and blah, blah, blah. And my husband. There was a legit straight up, yeah.
John Dye is the sunshine in everybody's soul. We all should just get ready for that.
Yeah, it's true. Tuesday night, I got a phone call, and I was on the phone for about an hour and a half. And it was one of the most scary things of my entire life. Like, straight, like, no hyperbole at all. It affected, and so the next days were consumed. Like, I had to wipe everything off my calendar, my schedule. And luckily everyone with whom I, had plans, they were very understanding. And I just had to say, I have an emergency. The way that it was handled, I feel like at least my angle of it, I felt very guided. I panicked a ton. I was comforted a ton by my husband. We're a lot of people, I think there's the potential for sure to be brought closer together within, when tragedy occurs. But, and again, it consumed a few days. And at this point, I'm sorry, I know I'm being vague, but it's a very personal thing that happened. And things will be okay. There are still some things we have to work out. But man, I'm again, sorry for being vague, but this thing happened and I'm grateful I feel like I was guided. I feel like the people in my life, that helped were put there to, they used all the right sensitivity and stuff. And I'm very grateful. So, yeah, again, sorry to be vague, but, and last night, I woke up in a panic, and I don't know why I'm sharing this. It's just occurred to me to share this. I woke up in a panic and I just started crying, like sobbing and feeling that, one of my kids needed me, and they weren't here. And I I texted my teenagers and they're like, we're fine. But one of them called me and she's like, you okay? And I'm like, I'll be honest, I got scared. All of a sudden I was overcome rather with this feeling that one of you guys needed me. And she goes, no, it's not us. Maybe it's Ray. Anyway, bye. I was like, don't tell me that maybe my daughter on a mission needs me and I can't talk to her. So maybe there's a missionary parent out there who needs to be like, if you're missing your kid, you are not alone.
Yes.
Even though right now you're on your own.
Yes.
Anyway,
that's sunshiny. Thanks, Jenny.
No, sorry. I'm saying that there's hope. And anyway, I hope you all have something really cool to look forward to coming up. Are we recording next week?
I think so. Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
I don't know. We'll see.
All right.
We'll see. We might have to delay or record early or something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see. If you'd like more Mormon news report, maybe next week, maybe not, depending on if I'm in a Super Bowl funk. Or can I really quickly? My daughter does not like avocados, but she told me today at dinner, Daddy, I want you to make guacamole.
Oh.
Okay. So I might be in a drunken guacamole stupor next week or something like that.
And next week also, next week I will have a happy sunshine.
Okay. I mean, this was good. There's opposition in all things.
I guess, man.
I guess. Okay. Anyways, thank you everyone for listening to the show. Thank you to all of our wonderful Patreon supporters. Thank you for those of you who send me DMs on Twitter and to our inbox at mormonnewsreport.com or anything like that. It's always fun to hear people and what they have to say about the show. You can find more of Jenny at formerly Fred, FORMERLYPHREAD. You can find her on Twitter or Instagram, or you can find her now on Twitter at HERD at BYU, because that's what we're doing now. You can find me at The Mormon News on Twitter, and you can find us on Facebook at The Mormon News. Consider becoming a Patreon member today, patreon.com/Mormon News Report. You're going to get the live video feed of Jenny and I. You'll get some after show babble where I got to talk to you about a movie I saw last night, Jenny, and other fun stuff like that. And folks, we will talk to you again after a while. Maybe next week, maybe not. I don't know. Right? Something like that?
Yes, let's.
Okay. All right. We'll talk to you again after a while. Okay. I think that was fun. I want to do that HeardAtBYU thing again.
Yeah, I need to remember to sign up for that. The other one, just do pictures of.
Are you really going to do that? HeardAtBYU.
I need to now.
No pressure. No pressure. I think, and I told you about this before, I think we're going to do the BYU police beat. Because we could probably, I probably need to be a little bit nicer to BYU, but yeah, they're fun to listen. They are just so earnest in all their things that it's interesting. Okay, Jenny, I saw a movie last night, and I think this movie was a good movie. I think but I think it suffered from overhype syndrome. So kind of like La La Land last year. Like I heard, was it last year? 2 years ago.
I think 2 years ago.
I think it was 2 years ago. I heard so much about La La Land that it was like, I gotta go watch this. I gotta go see this thing. And I saw it. Ashley and I saw it here at home, and it was like, okay, it was fine. It was okay. I saw A Star Is Born last night. Have you heard much about this film, about this movie?
Yes. Lady Gaga, Stephanie, what's her name? Yep. I've heard about it. Go ahead. You've seen it. I have not.
I will say this. There's a lot of hype about this movie. And so Ashley and I had heard a ton about it. And we were like, oh, okay, maybe we'll finally see it. We try and make it a goal to watch all the Oscar-nominated films for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress. It's something we've been doing ever since we've been married. So we watched it last night. And it was good. Lady Gaga was phenomenal.
Cool.
Bradley Cooper actually sang. He and Lady Gaga both sang all their stuff. I was reading a bunch of interviews after the movie, and apparently that was a big thing for him and her. I think it was her. Was every time that there is like a movie that has music or something like that, it is obvious that they're lip syncing, and she didn't want to do that. So they spent a lot of time at like Coachella and places like that, actually legitimately recording stuff for it.
Stephanie Germanotta.
Yeah. And Ashley was saying, she's classically trained at Juilliard or something like that. Like she's a legit.
Juilliard, yeah. She's legit.
So we saw it and it was good. And I think if you're someone who suffers from or is intimately affected by someone who suffers from something like addiction or maybe other things like that, it might hit home to you more. At the end of the movie, I saw it and I was like, okay, that was good. It was the music was great. It was very touching at certain points, but the problem was people were hyping it up so much that it's like I'm ready to be blown away, and it didn't happen.
Dude, I hate that.
It didn't catch me like I thought it would. So I would just say if you're going to see it, like just go in with eyes wide open and say, okay, this is what I think it's going to be. I don't know if I talked about it, but I really like Eric Snyder. And a lot of his movie reviews that he does.
He's very good.
And I find that I line up with him pretty closely on things. He gave it a B+, and I was a little bit below. I was at about a B, but I think it's because I get a little funny when I hear all this stuff being hyped up. Gosh,
it's hard not to.
I know. Like, and this is probably here I am talking about Oscar movies. I'm going to mention this movie, but like Spider-Man: Homecoming was hyped up a lot. And it was really fun and it was really good. And I saw it and I was like, wow, okay, I'm in on this one. So I think that's the problem is it was serious and the music was good and the story was good. And they tried to go away from here's the rags to riches story about a star and focus on different areas. But like I said, it was hyped up a lot. So I don't know if I was completely sold on it.
I think that happens a lot, like when the hype is because it's kind of like there's not a shtick necessarily, but like that they sang their own songs is notable, and so that becomes the thing, right? Yeah. What other films that have been nominated have you seen? So for Best Picture,
okay,
Black Panther.
Yes, saw that one. It was good. I don't know how to say it, and so I'm going to say it, and I'm probably going to get myself in trouble, okay? I think for the Black community, it probably meant a lot more to them than it did for me. I thought it was a phenomenal portrayal. I thought that the way that they portrayed Killmonger really spoke to some of the tensions. And again, here I am as a white dude saying this. But from Black people that I respect who saw the movie, who it meant a lot more to them, they said that the way that Killmonger and T'Challa were portrayed is very appropriate for some of the tensions that are going on in the Black community right now. Yep. And that's not to say that they're one overarching community, but it's you talk about the Mormon community, we suffer from the same thing, right? Like not all Mormons are created equal, and one person's Mormonism is another person's whatever. So yes, that was good. And I think that personally, I was entertained a little bit more. I mean, it's a superhero film, right? So you're not going to get some deep message to it, but I was in on that one. I like that one.
I liked it too, and I'm not the boss of you, but okay. You have girls. You've got your wife, you've got your 2 daughters, you've got a daughter on the way. Black Panther, also look at it from the perspective of powerful women.
So speaking about that, can I tell you something? My 5-year-old has actually really gotten into female superheroes, like all in on Wonder Woman. And I guess I didn't understand what it meant to have a powerful woman be representative of you in an area like superheroes until she got to a point where she can do some of this stuff. And it's really cool being like, oh, I get it now. That's yours. And maybe it for all different types of people out there, excluding white people, because we mostly
excluding white dudes. Yeah.
Mostly it's been us on these things. Right. But to be black and to have, that's my superhero. Like that's pretty cool to have that thing out there.
Yep. Here, I have the list in front of me. So okay. Black Klansman.
It's on the list. I think there could be potential there. But I don't think it's going to be artsy enough to win Best Picture. But I'm intrigued with it because it's actually based on a true story, and the true story is really interesting. Okay.
Bohemian Rhapsody?
Not at all excited to see that. I think it was overrated. I think everything that I've heard is basically said like the Live Aid concert is all you need to watch on that movie, and that's really cool, and the attention to detail. But the rest of it, Rami Malek is really good, I've heard. But other than that, like it's one of those I'm going to watch, and I'm probably going to have my iPad, and I'm going to be like doing, playing some stupid game on my iPad while it's on in the background.
Tweeting. Yep. Yeah. The Favorite.
The Favorite is one that I've heard a lot about, and I'm waiting for this to come out so I can actually see it on like DVD or something like that. But I have heard so many good things about this one, so it should be interesting to see.
Green Book.
Green Book, the one I've heard about Green Book is it's a happy story, but it suffers a little bit from white savior complex in it. Mahershala Ali is a great actor. I am actually watching True Detective right now on HBO, and he's the main character in that, and he's really, really, really good. And I like, oh gosh, the guy who played Aragorn in Lord of the Rings. Gosh. Anyways, he's in there, but I've heard it's just like, hey, let's take a serious topic, and hey, look, white dudes and black dudes are hanging out, and we're getting along together in a really racist place, and blah blah blah.
Okay. John and I saw Green Book Friday night.
What'd you think?
We loved it.
Okay, maybe I'm being a little too harsh on it.
Well, Viggo Mortensen does a wonderful job of, like, especially if you have spent any time around Italian Americans. Anyway, I can, now that you say that, I can see the white savior complex a little bit, except for the fact that he hired him for a very specific reason. So, but when you see it, I'll be eager to hear what you think. Okay. The other one,
I shouldn't, don't judge a book by its cover, right?
Right. I mean, because it's easy to look at it and watch a trailer and be like, but give it a shot. Roma.
This is on Netflix. And I have a feeling this is going to be uber artsy from everything that I've heard about it. But it's one of those where give it a shot. I'm not sure. I got to be in the right mood. I don't know about you. I got to be in the right mood for artsy movies. I can't just like go in and watch it.
Sure. Yeah, no, for sure. And then A Star is Born, of course. And then Vice.
Yeah, so Vice, people really like how Adam McKay does a lot of things. It's supposed to be really humorous, and it's supposed to be kind of like what he did with, The Big Short, talking about the financial crisis. But at the same time, it's going to be an Adam McKay biopic, and so I'm not. I'd much rather. And this is really nerdy of me. I'd much rather watch like an in-depth Ken Burns PBS style documentary than an Adam Burns make you chuckle and give you like a John Oliver style rundown of, oh hey, this is all the things you need to know about Dick Cheney.
Got it.
So
yeah,
who knows? I'll put it on the list.
Yeah, anyway. Cool.
Anyways, okay, Jenny. Anything else? Anything we didn't hit on the show that you want to get off your chest?
I don't think so. My home teacher's coming over.
Oh yeah, you got home teachers. Okay.
Except John's at home teaching, so that'll be fun.
I'm sorry, I can't let you in the house because it's just me and you, and that doesn't matter that I'm married, you're married. Ooh, can't do that.
Nah, they'll both come over. It'll be great. It'll be great.
You sound so excited. Okay, all right. I think we are good. Okay, everyone, Patreon listeners, thanks for listening. Thanks for sticking in. Thanks for supporting us. We'll talk to you again after a while. Boom. We're done. Donezo. Okay. I'll get this chopped up. I'll put it out there.
Thanks, man.
Okay. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.